It's The Comedy Store tonight, starring Argus Hamilton. With tonight's guests, Gerry Bednob, Cathy Ladman, Brady Matthews. And now, live from the bowels of the world's greatest comedy club, give it up for the star of the show, Argus Hamilton.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Comedy Store tonight. We've got a great crowd and special show. 3 comedians on tonight. So glad to have you. Let's start with the news. This in from Washington, D.C., folks. Can't make it up. A second female accuser has come forward to accuse Supreme Court Justice nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault. It's getting close because, under the law, it's 3 strikes and you're president. But, Kavanaugh defended himself against rape allegations on Fox News yesterday. However, he accidentally said, he really said this, "I refuse to be intimidated into pulling out." He said this. It's the stupidest thing a Republican has said since George W. Bush looked at all the hurricane damage in New Orleans and said, "We will get whoever did this." Meanwhile, the disgraced elderly blind comedian Bill Cosby was sentenced to prison today. But he'll never see the inside of a jail cell. Well, Bill Cosby being in jail could be the biggest thing since Johnny Cash. Just imagine all the laughs he'll finally able to get when he can tell rape jokes to an appreciative audience. Well, it's the end of September, and we're all closing out Hispanic Heritage Month here in America. It's a tradition in the United States that we always honor the people we're about to deport. Yes, we've got a very sympathetic group tonight. Pew Research reported, get this, 70% of Americans are now hooked into social media. When I was a kid growing up reading comic books, the ability to read minds and knowing what people are really thinking was considered a superpower. Well, social media has revealed what a useless superpower that turned out to be. U.S. Customs agents in Miami seized crates of bananas yesterday containing $18 million worth of cocaine. That's the good news. The bad news is, after the tariffs, it was $25 million worth of cocaine. Though President Trump gave a speech to the United Nations today in New York, he discussed drugs and nuclear weapons. One thing we all wish he'd use, and one thing we all pray to God he never uses. Also, President Trump announced there will be another meeting with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Well, let's all hope that Trump remembers the rules for a second date. Under the shirt, over the bra. Stormy Daniels, this is the truth, can't make it up, is going on a national book tour where she describes the president's penis to the American people. She says, unfortunately, orange is not the new black. That's right. That's right. Lusty group tonight. And I'm sure you saw, this is great news, this weekend, Tiger Woods is back. He's his own self again. It took him 10 years to do it, but he finally learned how to delete text messages. And James Lipton is leaving the Actors Studio after all these years. He finally got a 2-bedroom. Well, and finally, Black Panther star Michael B. Jordan is in talks with Warner Brothers to become the next Superman. He'll be the first black Superman. Wow. Yep. Instead of using kryptonite, Lex Luthor will expose him to the Kardashians. It'll be fun. Anyway, we've got a fantastic show. For the first time, we have 3 comedians on one show. We have Gerry Bednob, we have Brady Matthews, and the immortal Cathy Ladman is here. Stick around. We've got a great show for all of you. Thank you so much. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the Comedy Store tonight. So glad you're here. We've got fantastic guests tonight, and we're starting right now with a big favorite here at the Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard. I worked many nights with him in the main room. He's a tremendous favorite. He's from Boston, a real Renaissance man, and he kills them dead. Ladies and gentlemen, Brady Matthews.
Thank you.
Nice to have you, Brady.
Thanks for having me,
Nice to
Marcus.
have you, Brady.
Yeah, I've heard good things about this. This looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun here.
And actually, I'm from Chicago, too.
You're from Chicago. Did you develop in Boston?
I was born in Boston and raised in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where were you? What was your early comedy clubs?
Zanies.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically grew up in Zanies on Wells. And then I go back and do the Laugh Factory in Chicago all the time.
Yeah.
And then this new place called the Comedy Bar, that is great. You would
Yeah.
love it. They just have headliners do 30 minutes. You get in, you get out, and
Wow.
have a good time.
Well, as a young comic growing up, what were your Chicago favorite comics?
Chicago, I loved Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg was great, like with his one-liners, his little quick
Yeah.
one-liners.
Rest is story.
He's the reason why I kind of got into comedy,
Yeah.
was him. And then I watched Chappelle every time he was in town.
Sure. Did you ever see John Caponera?
Yeah, John was great.
The great Chicago comic.
Yeah, he was great. I did more like improv, too. I didn't really do a whole lot of stand-up when I was in Chicago. I did like Second City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved Second City. That was
Sure.
great, yeah. And then, yeah, that's about it. Just mostly improv.
Well, now, did you? I got some. For your friend Eric told me you did perform in Boston.
I haven't performed in Boston. I lived in Boston until I was like 4.
Oh, I see. Oh, I just got that back.
That's all right. Nice,
I was
Eric.
going to ask you how Dennis there is doing.
The producer, everyone. Setting Argus up. I heard you from Cleveland. Nope.
I wouldn't say Cleveland.
Right, no.
Those are fighting words for
No,
those people.
flyover state.
Well, okay, so you are famous for your art.
Yeah.
And I want people to remember your name. Our first viewer is Brady Matthews. Go on Instagram and see your incredible artist.
I have a BradyMatthewsArt.com if you guys check it out. I do a lot of celebrities. Like
Yeah.
I just did Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And then I guess I do a lot of dead celebrities now too.
Your rendition of Richard Pryor hangs in the
Yeah.
comics bar here.
Yeah, at the taco place in La Jolla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I love doing painting. You know, it's something else to do when you go home, when you're done with the comedy clubs.
Yeah.
And I used to go to the bars, and now I just go home.
Right,
So
that's
now
good.
I just go home and I paint. So, yeah.
But
It's
you should
much
really,
cheaper.
You should really see his paintings. You're fantastic.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Have you ever dabbled in any art or paintings or anything?
Not since nursery school.
Right.
That's about as far as I took it.
You know what's funny is I was looking at some of your stuff online. Your Johnny Carson stand-up is incredible.
Well,
I mean, because I just want to ask you, how nervous were you before you went out and did that? I would have been can I say it, shitting my pants.
You know, we'll ask Cathy Ladman that too, because she also started the Tonight Show in the 80s, and she's on the show tonight. But Mitzi Shore had sent us young baby boomers
Right.
over to the Comedy Store Westwood to develop.
Right.
So we would be ready for the Sunset Store. But that room was so great in the late 70s that by the time Mitzi looked twice at us, we were ready for the Tonight Show.
Wow.
And so there it was in January of 1980, standing behind the curtain,
How many years of comedy were you in at that time?
3.5.
That's it?
That's it. And the whole country, the whole town watched you on the Tonight Show. As Cathy and Gerry Bednob both know, all the agents, everybody.
Was your parents just freaking out back home? Or?
NBC in Oklahoma City had cameras on my parents watching
Get
me.
out of
do
here.
my personality.
That is so cool. Have you guys seen that?
That's
You
how
guys should
big it
look.
was.
You guys should see it. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
But anyway, I'm standing behind the curtain, and we had you like Mitch Hedberg, we had another comedian pass this year, a great one named Tim Jones.
Yeah.
And Tim was a page at NBC. And I was standing behind the curtain, ready with my very first drug joke.
Nice.
Because that's how you got the crowd on your side in 1980.
Sure.
And
Just a good old-fashioned acid joke.
just before,
Just to get people together.
just before the curtain opens, my right knee starts shaking.
No.
Never before in my life it starts shaking. Tim Jones puts his arm around me and says, "Argus, it's just a party." And that settled me down, and we went out and had a ball.
You're like, well, can I bring my drink out there too?
Yeah, I had enough of those, but not till after the show.
That's happened to me. I went to SNL to test for SNL, and right
Are you
before
into SNL?
Yeah, I was this close to going on Saturday Night
Oh,
Live.
wow.
And because I do a lot of impressions in my act.
Yeah.
And before I was about to go out there, they go, "Okay, you ready?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." My knees started going like this.
Yeah.
I had to grab them, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. And as soon as you go out there, though, they go 3, 2, 1, and you just
Boom,
start
you're
going.
ready to do it.
And I did it. I did my act like day and night. I was going to comedy clubs day and night,
Yeah.
just doing my act, and I had it down pat. You know,
Well, so you're headlining all over the place
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
What are your favorite rooms around the country?
I love Chicago.
Yeah.
I love the Laugh Factory in Chicago.
How many seater is that?
That's a good question. I think it's like I don't know. How much is it? How many?
The original room here is 235. The main room's 350.
I'd say about 250.
About 250.
Yeah, it's real intimate. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's not like the one you do. The one over here at the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, right?
I only did one tornado thing there, but
Yeah.
the acoustics there are terrific.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah, they're really
Because
nice.
they have the upper deck and then the lower, but it's that room's a lot of fun too. I like the improvs in Tampa, and I like all the improvs are pretty fun.
Yeah.
But I'd say the Comedy Bar in Chicago is one of my favorites.
Now that you're an accomplished headliner going all over the country, you have to have some goals here in Los Angeles, which way you want to go.
Right.
With sitcoms or hosting a show.
Well, I'm actually right now. I sold the show to Bravo, and it's called the Undercover Game Show, and so basically it's like I'll be like a mechanic,
Yeah.
and you'll bring your car in, and then suddenly you're at a effing game show, and we put the backdrops up, and the cameras come in, the boom mic, and everything, and you're like, I just came to get my tires checked, and now you're gonna win some money. So it's a great
It
concept.
sounds like affirmative action. Bravo finally has a straight show.
Totally.
That's amazing. That's great news.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing right now. So we start shooting that in a couple months.
When will it start airing?
Like middle of 2019.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll be at the Comedy Store whenever you're in town in the meantime, and
Totally.
or, other clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think that's where I'm at right now. I've done a lot of acting stuff, but I like doing a lot of improv stuff.
What before we go? What's your favorite thing to talk about now on stage?
On stage, just how out of control people are with like gym etiquette.
Gym etiquette. Tell us about that.
I don't know. It's kind of a rated R joke. But this guy, I'll go PG on it for you. I walked into the bathroom, and I don't know if you guys been to the Hollywood 24-hour fitness. It's awful. It's disgusting. But I walked into the bathroom, and this guy was washing his balls in the sink.
In the
Washing his
sink?
balls in the sink. And I've never seen that before. Have you ever seen that? No. I've
Tell me
never.
you didn't have your toothbrush in your hand.
No, I said, you almost done? No. How much more time you got? Yeah, so I talk a lot about that. I talk about relationship stuff. Like, my girlfriend gives me about 30 minutes of material, which is great. So yeah, and my parents are hilarious. They're always trying to give me bits.
Right.
I'm sure your parents
Yep.
are trying to give you bits.
They did. They
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
And you're like, I got it. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to give you real estate advice. You understand? So yeah.
Well, listen, it's terrific having you on, and I want to let you know whenever you're around in town, we'll get you back on.
I love that.
I want to stay up with your career, and I want our viewers to remember and go to him on Instagram and see his fantastic art. You could sell it as well.
I sell them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric did show me your art before
Yeah.
we went on today, and I mean, you really have it.
I appreciate it.
What's your connection between art and stand-up?
You know what? Depression.
Really? On that happy note.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate
We'll be
it.
right back, ladies and gentlemen, with Gerry Bednob. Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Comedy Store tonight, and it's a real thrill to bring to you an old buddy and a funny man, ladies and gentlemen. You have seen him on the 40-Year-Old Virgin, on which he was a huge hit. Must have been fun sitting in the audience laughing at your own performance on screen. Yeah. But we started out together, and he headlines nightclubs all over the country, does cruises, the whole bit. He's a legend among his peers, and he's a funny man. He's Gerry Bednob, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Now, this is the closest I've been to getting on the Tonight Show with Johnny, because you're here. I've never done Johnny. No, you're here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, he was my
Love
idol.
Griffin was mine.
Yeah, people used to say I was like Johnny's son, and I thought that was a compliment until about 15 years later. I saw a documentary on him and saw how he treated his sons.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I realized why he never let me guest host. So anyway, tell me what you're up to.
I just did a movie in New Mexico. It's called Almost American. Oh. Yeah, and I did one right here called Late in America.
Yeah.
So so it's been it's about two young British guys came here, young kids.
Yeah.
And I play the principal of the high school where they're attending to get an American education, but the focus is really to get laid in America. And that's they were virgins.
Uh-huh.
And I'm making fun of them. I'm finding what's going on. Anything yet? Anything yet? I had a lot of fun with that.
Oh man! So, but it's not one of those things where the teacher has an affair with the student, like Los Angeles.
Yes.
Well, now
It's a boys' school, so no.
Well, now you were. Everybody got a look at you in the 40-Year-Old Virgin. Was that fun?
Oh yeah. I mean, the good thing about doing that movie is that Judd Apatow, he gives you the freedom to do almost any. Well, if you saw me there, you know they didn't write what I said, most of it. Right. And he just wrote the script, and he would come at the last minute, and I'll say, I'm ready to go in the morning. I revise my review, memorize my lines. Yeah. And I say, he said, you ready, Gerry? I said, yeah. He said, no, you're not. And he gave me a completely new script, new pages. And I said, oh. But that's what he does to keep it fresh, maybe. Right. And he allowed me, because I did an episode called Love on recently on Netflix. Yeah. He did the same thing. About to say, no, Gerry, no, cut. Yeah. Let's do this instead. Spend 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and if you can't memorize, we'll feed you the lines. But that's the kind of confidence he has in his actors.
So he would rewrite it quickly, and you would have to memorize it.
Memorize it.
So you
And-
go to him for tech support. That's a switch.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the 40-year-old virgin, like my scene with Steve Carell.
Yeah.
You remember, I didn't write almost nothing
Right.
that I said, and they couldn't write it.
Right.
It's
So,
like-
so did that launch you into more headlining gigs
Yeah.
or more cruises?
No, I've never done cruises.
I thought you did cruises.
No.
I'm thinking of Jeff Wayne.
Yeah, oh yeah. I've been offered cruises, but
Yeah.
it's not my style.
Well, I mean, I know you've talked about it on Facebook. That's
Yeah,
fine.
right, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's a line I do about that I had a dream where I murdered my next door neighbor.
Uh-huh.
And no, this is a dream.
Sure, it's a dream.
And they arrested me, but I knew the guy who murdered my neighbor
Yeah.
in the dream, and they arrested me, and I said, well, if I could tell him the person, I said, well, he'll kill me. You know, if I find out. He said, no, we'll put you on a witness protection program.
Right.
And I said, like, where? He said, well, somewhere in the desert, somewhere
Right.
we made a nice house for you. I said, but a plane might be coming, someone might see me, and I'm not 100% sure that I won't get caught. He said, we'll take you maybe to the Amazon River.
Yeah.
And I said, some hunters might come, they might see me.
Yeah.
He said, well, you know what? We'll make sure nobody sees you. We'll get you a walk on a cruise ship.
I know, because we have, Gerry and I and Cathy, we have peers
Oh.
that go out on these cruises, and the money is good,
The
and
money
they just
is-
keep working and keep working,
Yeah.
and we never see them again.
No.
It's true.
Yeah, with
They
this
make great
production.
money, and they disappear from LA.
Yeah, I know.
They forget about LA, LA forgets about them.
Yeah, and I was hoping to get acting parts. If you go on a cruise ship, you lose a lot. I was in Trinidad doing a movie there,
Yeah.
and I got Judd Apatow called me to do a part in Bridesmaid,
Yeah.
and I wasn't available. The guy said, "Well, you can't leave, Gerry, because I was the main character in the show,
Yeah.
and if I leave, they were struggling with financially. I said I couldn't do that, so I didn't come. And that was, leaving town is not good for when you expect to get parts in a movie or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't, as I say, I don't, talk shows I did and more, but I have a very interesting about the Merv Griffin show.
Yeah.
The first time I did the Merv Griffin show, I was excited. That's the first big break I'm getting on a national TV show. And I was in the green room, and Don something was his name producing. And he said, okay, Gerry, you will go on. You'll go. Janet Turner was the girl in charge of
Yeah.
setting up the whole. She said you'll go on last because the first time you're doing that was just natural.
Yeah, you're going last on the top.
And then if you have lines, just write a few lines about quick jokes. And as you know, I have quick lines. I put about 20 jokes quickly, and then Don, the producer, said, "Okay, Gerry, you'll go on." I said, I took my son. My son was about 10 or 11 years old at the time. I said, "Can I? Where's my son going to sit?" He said, "No, Gerry, he can't sit in because of union. I can put him in the audience and the camera." And I clicked right away. I said, "Well, Don, you can't do the show. This is my first time on
Yeah.
it." I said, "I can't do the show." So my son took time from school, tell his friends his dad would be on TV and he'd be in the audience. And I said, "No, I can't do the show because I can't be funny.
Right.
I can't do my." He said, "Gerry, you put him in a spot." I said, "Well, you put him in a spot too, because to me, my son is
Certainly.
more important than any show."
Yeah.
So it's comics. I think Kevin Nealon or a bunch of comics with me in the green room when the guy left. So then he came back now and said, "Okay, Gerry, we decide we'll put the sun way up in when the camera won't be there."
Yeah.
And then I said, "Well, good, now I could work." So in the meantime, Merv Griffin came and he went through my lines, and he liked the lines, the quick lines,
Yeah.
and I was, I think, the first comic as an unknown to actually open the show.
Wow.
He said, "Gerry," "let's open with this Bangladesh guy." And the thing is, it's funny, I did about 12 minutes instead, because he was fumbling with the lines. Usually
Yeah.
they write it on cue cards,
Yeah.
to figure out. He didn't have enough time to put it on cue cards. But he was so good, he tried to memorize, and you could see him pausing. He said, okay, Gerry, and I said, as he paused in the audience laughing because they know he doesn't remember the lines that feed me.
Yeah.
And he said, Johnny Yoon, he does impressions. Do you do impressions? I say, yeah, and I do an impression of James Cagney.
Yeah.
I say, you dirty cow.
You dirty cow. You dirty cow. You deity.
Yeah. So that's how I happened to get the 10 or 12 minutes opening the show. Britt Eklund was there, and some other people were there, and big stars, and that's a trivia for me.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful.
Even the Joan Rivers show, the first time I did Joan Rivers show, I know she's wrapping up now, and I just said, come and sit on the couch.
Yeah.
And she said, well, okay, and Gerry Bednob, you're so funny, will you come back? And I said, no. And so I was the first one.
You knew how mad Johnny was at it.
Well, the thing is, I said no, if I didn't do a good set, I wouldn't dare say no.
Right.
Because she was saying not coming back anyway. So those are two things I remember well in my. And Fred Willard was he did a lot for me.
Well, talk about when we all first started out.
Oh.
What drove you to comedy in the first place?
Bad comics.
Bad comics?
Yeah. They were my inspiration. No, seriously. Because when you see, like Richard, if I had come here, I see Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, you go and say, I'll say I'm packing up, I'm going home.
Yeah.
But when I see real bad comics on the Merv Griffin show and Mike Douglas show, I say, wait a minute. And those were my inspiration. A lot of comics say, oh, Richard Pryor. And a lot of the younger black comics, Richard Pryor started me, made me want to do comedy. Yeah, right. You saw Richard Pryor, and then you quit med school and went to writing comedy.
I'm never going to take that compliment again from some young comic. You just ruined it for me.
And then the drug jokes. I do drug jokes too, as a matter of fact. I do every joke.
Yeah. Well, what did you knock around? What year did you start out in L.A.?
I came here in 1978.
Yeah, that's 2 years after
That's
I did.
2 years, right?
Yeah.
And you know something funny? You used to sit, remember, Aguayo and Danny Murray to have a class on Sunday.
Yeah.
And you would sit in a corner all by yourself.
Yeah.
Now, I was very...
Nearest the beer.
Yeah. I was very paranoid,
Yeah.
I'll tell you. So I always hear about comic steal material. Now, I didn't know you already did your night show and all of that. And so I was doing my act, and I asked, I said, that guy sitting in you. I didn't know who you were then. Danny, I must have asked. So that guy sitting in the back there, he's writing, he didn't steal material, did he? Danny said, are you kidding us? I was That's how far. You remember Mel?
I was switching. I wasn't stealing. I'm smarter than that.
Remember Mel Cole?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mel Cole. I love Mel Cole, man. One day when I first came here, there was a little pizza joint in Westwood used to do comedy because we could, not the big stores we couldn't get yet.
Yeah.
And Mel Cole all dressed up, he was,
Yeah.
and I thought he was an agent coming to check us out. And I said, oh God, I called my wife, I said, this might be my big break. Because, agents there and they discovered, so. And I'm seeing Mel watching me in the corner and watching me. And I see even Robin Harris.
Yeah.
He was the MC. I said, can I switch? Can I go in a little later? I want to go through my material. Because I'm so scared now Mel is an agent.
Right.
And I want to do well. So he said, sure. So then I went on and Mel was watching me. And man, I'm scared. I'm thinking a Hollywood agent, right? Dressed up in his three-piece suit. And then Mel came to me after and hugged me. I said, oh, good, I got it. I made it. And he asked me, he said, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. I thought he was going to, ask me if I have representation.
Right.
Then he said, who do I talk to get a few minutes on stage? That's true. I said, oh, shit.
He wasted a great set.
Yeah.
And he he told you were his inspiration.
Yeah, he was.
Man, we kid because we love each other.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen.
man, oh.
Give it up for my buddy Gerry Bednob. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
buddy. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, a pleasure. I'm so excited to be in this.
We'll be right back with the incredible. Welcome back to the Comedy Store tonight, and it's a real pleasure to bring our next comedian to the show. Comedian.
Yes, comedian. Okay.
She's great. I've known her forever. We worked forever, all the way back to the 1980s at the Comedy Store. Mitzi loved her, and so were you, ladies and gentlemen. Cathy Ladman.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Cathy.
Thank you.
How you been?
I'm getting over a cold, but I've been other than that, I've been very well. I've been very well. I've just finished doing a play.
Really?
Yeah, it was great. I hadn't done a play in like 14 years, and I had so much fun.
I saw some photographs of it on Facebook.
Yeah.
It was some gripping photographs. Tell us about
I
it.
played, well, it was written by Mark Lano and Joanne Astrow.
Oh,
Am I allowed
really?
to say those names here?
Of course. No, Mark and I settled a strike two weeks
That's
before,
right.
before it
That's
started.
right. I remember.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
that he was. We were telling this. We had the cast party last night and the cast and crew party. And anyway, so they were talking about the whole strike thing, and it was about Mark's life
Yeah.
growing up in Brighton Beach,
And then the
Brooklyn.
name of the play?
Jews, Christians, and screwing Stalin.
Jews, Christians, and screwing Stalin.
Yes.
That is a daunting task.
Yes, yes, and it was so much fun. The cast was fantastic, and Mark and Joanne wrote it. Mark directed it, and it's about his life when he was a young man of 24,
Yeah.
growing up in his grandmother's that would be
Yeah.
boarding house in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn.
Of course.
And
Wow.
it was really just.
Now, Brighton Beach at the time was a predominantly Jewish enclave.
I guess. I mean, I'm guessing.
I mean,
and
Brighton
also,
Beach memoirs, you know,
yes,
and all that.
yes,
yeah.
yes, and they
Robert
were communists.
Klein
Yes,
era.
right, and they were communists. His
Yeah.
his grandparents were communists.
Yeah.
They were Russian communists, and so they were a very not religious, atheists,
Secular communist.
yeah, real specific ilk, and
Yeah.
very interesting stories and great characters. It was a great character to play. It was so much fun.
Why would they have escaped Russia as communists when they could have stayed in Russia?
Well, because Stalin,
Was Stalin.
yeah, that was it. Yeah,
He ruined a lot of
he ruins a lot of people's lives. Yeah,
Yeah, he had a motto. He said, "Confession without torture isn't really confession at all."
is that really what he said? Oh my God, that
Yeah.
sounds like a club guy.
Yeah, he's the only guy that ever won the Nobel Peace Prize just for dying. Oh, so the play closed. You had a
The
good
play
crowd?
closed on Sunday. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was great. It was terrific. And
This is the odd question.
What?
But did you get some laughs out of it?
oh yeah, oh
As the
absolutely.
daunting grandmother.
Oh yeah. It was very funny. It was really funny. I mean, it was both. They had some pathos, and it was funny, and it was just very thrilling. I love doing live theater. It terrified. First I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to memorize. I had a big part,
Yeah.
and I was really terrified that I wasn't going to be able to memorize all of my lines.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how it happens. It's just amazing. I mean, you memorize an act slowly.
Right.
It's not all at once. It's not like an entire 2-hour act.
Yeah.
But you have to memorize a play all at once. So it was scaring the shit out of me, and then it happened. It really fucking happened.
But when you're on stage, though, when Cathy Ladman's on stage, you don't go 15 seconds without a big laugh. What was
Oh,
it?
yes, I do, Argus.
Well,
Yes, I
second
do.
show Friday, we're all
No,
the
I
same.
go plenty without a
You know
big
what I'm
laugh.
talking
Yes.
about, though. But
Yes.
to stand on stage and
And not have a big laugh?
Yeah.
That's, it's interesting because that's the project that I'm working on right now, that I've been working on for like close to 20 years, is a solo show. And it's not gonna be all funny because it's about my eating disorder.
Oh,
And I want it to be funny, but I also want it to be
Yeah.
real.
the one-woman show.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is very in a play. It's not as daunting when you're around other actors and the material. People's expectations when they go to a play is not the same as when they go to a comedy club.
Right,
You know, you expect to be laughing consistently when you go to a comedy club.
yeah.
Or you go to see a comedian in a theater. But when you go to a play, you figure it's going to be a blend of things.
Right.
And when I do my solo show, it's definitely going to be a blend of things. And I think I'm paranoid that people are going to come see a solo show of mine and think, oh, she's a comedian, so this is just going to be uproariously funny. But it's not.
Right.
So, I mean,
Well, Steve Martin has done some pathfinding on that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I remember, like, his, oh, God, was it Born Standing Up?
Yeah.
When he opens the book by talking about why he wanted to stop doing stand-up. Because there were too many variables that could screw with it. There was the people serving drinks.
Uh-huh.
There were people in the audience. You know, you never knew what was going to happen, and you always had to be like on your toes and make it funny. You had to make it funny. You had to make it funny. And I think he just kind of like got burnt out on that.
Yeah.
I think he
wasn't a warrior to begin with, and that's what comics are.
Well, I don't
I
know.
mean, he started out as a banjo player in Orange County, and
right.
that's not open mic territory
No.
like we went through.
No, and he worked at Disney,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he had a
And so
very different beginning.
So he was used
Yes.
to sweet, supportive audiences.
Yes.
You and I and Gerry Bednob,
Right.
we went through the paces. We
Right.
bombed until we were bomb-proof, you know, and
Again, I don't know if that's true, Argus. I don't know if
Well,
that's
that's-
true. I
that's
don't
a
want to
lot-
say that. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that.
But when
I'm
you did
bummed.
start, in New York, it was,
I started in '81 in New York.
and that was a kind of a magic time back then. with
Oh,
guys
my
coming up.
God,
Who
it
were
was
the guys that you
phenomenal.
started with?
Well, who I started with, well,
Or were active big at the clubs
There
when
would
you
be,
were-
there would be, okay, the ones who were big at the clubs when I was there were Bill Maher.
Yeah.
And, I'm trying to think, J.J. Wall and Adrian Tolsch.
Brogan was.
And Brogan was already here.
Yeah.
Seinfeld was already here.
Yeah.
Reiser was already here.
and,
No,
Larry
yeah,
Miller
Reiser
was already here.
Larry Miller was already here.
But they all came out of
yes.
the comic strip,
Yes, comic strip and the improv
And the Improv.
and Catch a Rising Star.
Catch Rising Star.
Yeah, and Catch a Rising Star, I took a stand-up class because I was so terrified.
Yeah.
I was really scared. I took a stand-up class, and then when you had 5 minutes, he'd say, okay, go to Good Times. You go to this club called Good Times.
Yeah.
And I would say, talk about misnomers. It was anything but good times. Anything but good times at this place. And, you know, you weren't paid there. I had to beg the guy to give me cab fare for one way home.
Oh.
Like, it's when I emceed one night, so I could go home at 1 in the morning. I'd take a cab. It was the opposite end of Manhattan for
Yeah.
me. So then Bill Maher had told me, he said, you know, if I can help you at all, let me know, because I met him at the Improv when we were waiting to do a one-nighters together. Everybody met at the Improv.
Yeah.
That's where you met your rides.
Ah.
So he said, if I can help you, you know, let me know. And I took him up on it, and I said, you know, I really would like an audition at Catch a Rising Star. That's where I started.
Yeah.
And he said, sure. So he set up an audition for me. And I remember my audition was December 5th, 1981. And I remember this because that was the day that my nephew was born. And I was so thrilled that my nephew had been born that this seemed like meaningless to me.
Right.
You know, it just didn't seem important. So I was so relaxed.
Uh-huh.
That I had a really good set, and then I passed my auditions, and then I
Yeah.
worked there. And I worked there, and the comic strip is where I worked in New York.
Well, the one time I visited in 1980, I was opening for Helen Reddy across the country, and I just stopped in for one night to check out the scene.
Right.
And I noticed all the guys that the comic strip, they would wind up being Comedy Store regulars, great guys, the ones we just described.
Right.
And I went in to Catch a Rising Star, and they pushed me up on stage for about 5 minutes. And they had this mirror right across
Right,
the
across
wall.
the back. That's
And-
right.
And it was a wide room, not a deep room.
Right.
So you're looking at yourself
Yes.
in that mirror. How
Yes.
did you get over that?
You know what's so funny? This is the first time that now that you're saying it, now I'm recalling it. I guess the crowd was low.
Yeah,
It
so
was
you
at
focused
it was
there.
at your feet, so you focused at them and not, you didn't
Yeah.
work straight ahead, you worked down in that room.
Well, when I realized all I had were LA jokes, all I could see was me
Oh.
bombing. God.
Well, the first, I remember like, there was one night I went on there, on a weekend. It was one of my first weekends that I went on there.
Yeah.
And I had some out-of-body experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh my God, this is horrible. This is just going terribly. And I didn't know how I got through it. I just somehow got through it. And then I tape recorded and I listened to the tape. And it was fine. It was just fine. But and that happened to me on my second Tonight Show.
Yeah?
My very second Tonight Show, I had this very odd goal. I thought, well, my first Tonight Show went great, so my second Tonight Show is going to go even better. Not realizing that nothing can compare to your first.
Nothing.
Nothing. So I went out there, and I once again had this out-of-body experience, and I thought it was terrible. And then I actually spoke to Jay Leno's wife, Mavis, afterwards, because I was on with Jay that night. And she said, oh, I think this was even better than your first one. But to me, it was like clocks were melting.
'Cause it was all
and things,
internal.
everything was in slow motion, and
Yeah.
it was terrifying. You know,
But just internally, it could never be as special as the first one.
no, it just
Now, when
can't,
you-
but I was naive, I didn't realize
But to
that.
get to LA before the Tonight Show, when did you get out to LA?
Well, here's what happened. Okay, I was going out with Steve Middleman at the time.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, we were together for like 3.5
Steve
years.
Middleman, hilarious.
Very
comedian.
funny guy.
Yeah.
Very funny guy. And so he came out here for pilot season,
Yeah.
and he'd been doing it for longer than I had.
Yeah.
And I said, he said, well, come out for a month. So I came out for a month to join him. And since he was working here already, he'd passed auditions here. He set me up with on an audition
With
here.
Missy?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she was sitting at the table, and I had a really good set, and I got off stage and she said, "Oh, you're great. You can be a regular." And it was so.
That's
it was so
that's as big as a
exciting.
Tonight Show
It
shot.
was so exciting.
Yeah.
And I was here for a month, and I worked like every night.
And what year
And
was that?
This was 85.
85, that's
And then we
right.
went back, and then I moved back out here, and then Steve and I broke up.
Yeah.
And but Mitzi had me working constantly.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't on the road, I was working here 6 nights a week.
Now, I remember we worked together.
I forced myself to take one night a week off. I
Yeah.
had to force myself because I was so compulsive.
But yeah, we both are. But you're a workhorse. I mean, you
Well,
live for it.
Yeah, I mean, I love working. I really
Yeah.
do. When I'm not working, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I'm really not happy. Really not happy.
We're not expressing ourselves.
And I'm not painting either.
We got to get up there. So you did the second one with Jay, and then we got into the 90s. You started headlining all over the place.
Well, I started headlining like late 80s.
Late
I
80s.
started headlining, and
Yeah.
then I had a really good run through the late 90s.
Yeah.
And then things started to change, and my goals started to change,
Yeah.
and I started to do acting more.
Yeah.
And I started to feel like in the early 2000s that I was starting to outgrow the road gigs.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that wasn't happening for me. And as far as like cruises, I know you're talking to Gerry about cruises. I am so not a cruise comic.
Right.
I'm so not a cruise comic.
Have you ever been on one?
Yes. It's funny. I did cruises in the 80s, and those were fun. I did a few of them, and those were fun. But when I started to try them again in the late 90s, early 2000s, they didn't like me, and I didn't like them. It
Really?
was just, I'm just too dry for them. I'm just too dry for cruises.
Yeah.
You need to have way
Yeah.
more energy than I have. You know me. I don't have a lot of energy on stage.
Right.
I'm pretty.
Yeah.
I talk.
Right.
That's what I do. I
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
I
Kvetch.
talk. No, I don't kvetch. I talk.
Well, so you're deepening now. You're preparing for your one-woman show.
Right.
And that would open you up to all kinds of acting experience. You must have had some nice showcases during this particular theater.
Yeah. It was really, really great. And there's even talk of maybe bringing this show to New York, which would be not the solo
Yeah.
show, but the show that I just
Oh,
finished.
wow, yeah,
Which
everyone
would be
knows Mark back there.
Yeah, which would be fantastic.
And they know you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I have. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's
Everyone
those are
knows
my
us by
roots.
now,
Those
it's
are my
amazing.
roots.
Yeah.
New York is my place.
Well, so we're going to stay up with you. As long as you're in town, you're welcome here anytime.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, and if you have any stories that you think of specifically that you want me to tell from our old days.
Oh,
I mean,
Yeah.
Remember, I mean, we should talk, you know, next time we'll talk about the dunes.
Oh, the Dunes
It
Hotel.
was so fun.
This,
Oh
this,
my God.
this is a room at the Four Corners in Las Vegas, the biggest corner in the world, right across from Caesar's Palace. And it was a 535-seat room.
This is before they had skyways.
Yeah.
You crossed on the street. That's how tough we were.
And the room was built specifically in 1955 for Maurice Chevalier, who hated microphones. So
I
it
didn't
had
know
to be
that.
acoustically perfect.
Oh, wow.
So when there were 535 people in that room and we were killing it on
Oh,
weekends,
my God,
there
it
was
was
nothing
amazing.
like it. You know.
And all you did was like 10 minutes. It got to be like a nuisance. He was like, oh, I have to go do my show.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's like we were so busy doing other things. It's like, oh, wait a second, I'll be right back in 10 minutes. But it was so fun. It was the greatest
Yes,
room. It was the greatest room.
And I never knew at that point that these were the greatest crowds I was ever going to have. I'd sure have appreciated it a lot more.
I know.
Wow.
Those
Because
were
when L.A. would come to Vegas on the weekend,
Those were great days.
Baby
Those-
boomers with money, nothing like it.
those were great days.
Well, we'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, Cathy Ladman, let her hear it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So glad. That was fantastic. Tell you what, welcome back to the Comedy Store tonight. Laughing it up with Cathy Ladman, one of her old friends and one of mine. Yakov Smirnoff will be with us next week, next Tuesday, and along with a very funny man with lots of great stories from the PGA Tour. A funny stand-up named Court McCowan will be here. He's a buddy. So we'll see you next week. And tell your friends about us. Do it. Put us on Twitter and share us, because you're going to say you were on the ground level of a great show, and we hope Mitzi loved it too tonight. We love you. I'm Argus Hamilton. Thank you very much.
Yeah.